So, previous episode, booster plug box, whatever it was, didn't work. It essentially just tricks the ECU into thinking it's colder than it is to run it a little bit richer. It's obviously pretty, what's the word? It's a bit of a hack really, and it didn't actually do anything that it promised to do, so don't need that. I bought this, which is a DYNOJET PowerCommander FC fuel kernel, fuel controller. Yeah, don't need that bit. Let's open it up, show you what I've got inside. So, a few things to note straight away. It comes with a cable because you have to plug it into a computer or laptop. Is that the cabling is really nice. Nice OEM connectors. We obviously haven't tried them yet, but they look really good. Nice bit of protective sheaths. The actual box itself feels pretty good quality as well. Potentiometers look a little bit like, well, the sticker bit on the top. If I'm honest, it's a little bit off, a bit tricky to kind of see what you're doing, but I'm sure it's manageable. And the instructions, which I've had a good look at, and they're exceptionally good instructions specific to my bike. And instructions for how to download the software, which I've already done on the laptop. So let's plug it in, and then according to the instructions, it has a stock map for an FZ6 already loaded on 1. On 2, it has one for slip-ons or something for the exhaust, but not air filter or ignition advance or anything. So we'll have a look what those differences that they've done with the map, and see if we can make ourselves a custom one on like 3 and 4, see if we can get rid of that throttle delay at mid-throttle. Yeah, so let's go and show you how easy it is to follow these instructions to fit this to the FZ6. So we need to access under the tank and under the seat. If you've got a naked Fazer FZ6N, then you wouldn't have these fairings, and the tank you can just lift up. On this one, you want to remove those 2 inner sections with the bolts there, and then you can undo those, lift the tank up, and obviously you need to get the seat off. So let's do those things so we have access where we need, and we'll show you the next step. So here we have the bike with the tank just propped up, seat out of the way, and immediately you can see the 3 plugs you need to get into. There they are. So there's our 3 plugs. So you need to disconnect those 3 plugs and put the unit in its place. I think first we're going to route the wiring that direction under here into this section. So I think the power command is going to go here or here. I can't remember. Let's just check the manual and we'll get back to you on that. So the instructions didn't say you had to take this side panel off here, which just goes here, covers the relays. However, for the sake of literally, what, 10 seconds to remove it, it's much easier to route this section of wiring under here and through this gap here. Otherwise there's a cover here, and trying to get your fingers up in there and not damage the wiring. So that's what I've done, and then we route it down this way, and then we've got our plugs here, and then our earth is going to route up there onto the battery, and then our power commander can sit under the back here, so I can just have to lift the seat and I can get to that. I mean, you could probably mount it somewhere else that's even more accessible, but I think under the seat is probably a good idea. It's pretty dry under there, generally speaking. So, yeah, next step, plug these 4 in and wire up that earth to the battery. Alright, instructions are obviously in black and white, which isn't wonderfully handy, but this plug here is a little tricky one to find. So, yeah, that is the main 2 plugs to unplug, so great. I just assumed, oh, it must be that other white plug there, which is actually like a triangle 3-pin, but we haven't got a triangular 3-pin on here. So I dug down in the wiring, and like at the back further there, it basically sits down there, is the white 4-pin plug, not that one, and on here it has clear connectors like that. So white to white, 6-pin clear to 6-pin clear, and then the 4-pin clear, which is those, goes to the black plug at the back there, like this. You see that? I think that might be like switch power and ground, I expect. So let's get those plugged in. So we're going to go on the, obviously on the inside of that tube, which is the breather, put the plugs in there, and then run the earth up to the battery. Ground, whatever you want to call it. Right, so ground is connected to the battery. That runs down the left side of the airbox and across. It's all a bit loose at the moment, but until I know that it's working, we'll connect and communicate with a computer. I'm not going to start cable tying and taping anything in. Obviously it wants cable ties here and there, otherwise it'll rub on suspension and obviously other things. and cause new problems, which we don't want. So I think the instructions, we can switch the page, and it suggests, after I've connected the ground, it suggests securing it there. Trying to work out where there is. If we walk around this way, maybe it's suggesting, maybe here. But yeah, I'm going to see what space I've got under here. I'd love it there, but I'm going to test fit it there with the seat down, and then I've still got space in my puncture repair kit and my first aid kit, and that's the tool kit for Yamaha, so a bit of space to play with. Be nice if it's there. If it's not, I'll have to go there, and we just won't bother with, obviously, the first aid kit. Okay, so first step, just to test it's actually working, is to put the ignition on, and hopefully I would expect to see a red light, if I'm honest. Interesting. The bike will start as it is, as long as there's not holding the throttle on. Hasn't primed, which is interesting. Normally it would prime. See if she'll start. She won't start. Oh, maybe she's not. Interesting. Well, there we go. And our light is on. Okay, well that makes sense. Cool. Right, maybe that's why. So, it doesn't come up red, just so you know. You freak out like I just did. Primes. Status. It does come on now, and then goes off. Interesting. Okay, and then runs once it starts. Sure. Okay. So let's then plug it in with a laptop and see what we get. Okay, so the software that comes with it, or suggested downloaded, it wouldn't connect to the device. I spent ages thinking it was the device, USB, etc. Is it that? Is it my laptop? So I rang DYNOJET UK, and he's a very busy bloke there. Was his name Wayne, maybe? Anyway, she put me through to him, patched him through on his mobile, which was very kind. And he said, give me your email address, I'm sending you this software, which is a different software to what they say you should use. It is PowerCore Application Launcher. You'll need an account with DYNOJET, which is free, and you use the C3 tuning software, not the PowerCommander software there. So that's what I'm using, C3 tuning software, and guess what? It immediately connected. The only issue I now have is that map position 1, you can see all the information for it, its notes, what it's for, but they say that map position 2 is for not stock exhaust, so slip-on exhaust, stock air filter, and there's nothing in map position 2. It goes bold when you've selected it on the device, so I switched thinking that might help. It didn't. So I have emailed the guy back, hoping that maybe we can find something. Now the reason I want the second one with a slip-on exhaust, I'd like to see the difference with the figures. So with map position 1, when you go to fuel adjustments, you can see the fuel map. There's obviously no adjustments at the moment, and I'd like to compare that to what someone else has done or DYNOJET did for a slip-on exhaust and see what they did. Now my interesting bit for me on the throttle is the 0 to 10%, where I'll be adjusting this mid-range down here, but I'd like to see what they do first, and then I'll have a play with it. So there we go. C3 tuning software, connected immediately. Before I put the seat on and the trims back in, wiring's all cable clipped in now out of the way. Plenty of room under the tank there, that's not a problem. It follows the loom round and up, and then we've popped him in here. Now it suggests putting it up here, but then I'd lose space for my tool kit, first aid kit and puncture repair kit. And we had this little gap here. I kind of liked that gap. So we've cut a little square off in the seat in that position. Just need to tidy it up a little bit, and it just allows the seat to hold that in place but not push on the unit, obviously break the unit. And then we just pop the seat up and we can just play with that if necessary. So let's play with the maps and go for a ride. Bike update, the Fazer. We're still chasing this throttle issue, which you've seen in previous episodes, and for that reason we're going to DYNOJET UK to get them to have it on their dyno, give this all a little tweak but on the buttons, and set up a custom map for my setup. So there's only one other engine mod that I really wanted to do, and that was an airbox mod, which we'll show you better later. It doesn't look like much right now, but we'll show you the before and after in a moment. So we're going to do that before, because that would adjust things. And I'm also just going to triple check about balancing the throttle bodies. So we're going to do that with some actual proper gauges rather than the ones I've been using before, which were frankly quite rubbish. So let's hear what the airbox sounds first. Stock. So standard airbox. People say they change the sound when you mod the airbox. So let's try and do a side by side, shall we? Standard airbox. I think the exhaust is just too loud to really notice, but we'll do a side by side in a moment. Right, we're going to balance the throttle bodies, then we're going to change the airbox, do the airbox mod, and then we'll double check on the throttle bodies and see how they sound or look or whatever. Yeah, those things. So we've definitely got one that's not quite there. I'd say 3 cylinders aren't bad, but this one, yeah, that needs adjusting. That's definitely not in balance with the other 3. These little valves, by the way, they're really important. You watch them as I adjust the valve, that's all you get. So this valve is just allowing you to tune in so you can see exactly how much vacuum they're pulling. And that one definitely needs adjusting. So let's adjust that one and come back and see if we balance them out. I'd say that one wants a bit of adjustment. We'll see if we can get them all to factory spec anyway. I'll check the book what it wants. But we'll see if we can get them all, say, around 9, which is where they're hovering. So tank's up, ready to access the 4 screws, which are on this block in here. Probably easier to access from the side, and I'll turn the gauges around so I can see them a bit clearer. Might even switch the way they're piped in. So there's our 4 screws. But just in case the airbox mod does adjust idle speed and all the rest of it, just in case it has that much effect at idle, I'm going to do the airbox mod now. So it's pretty hard to see, we'll see it better once it's out. The air goes in down in there, and I'll show you before and after what it looks like. But it's just a bunch of screws like this. Just get taken out with a tool like this, and then we'll take the lid off, show the differences, and put the new one on. Okay, spot the difference. Airbox mod. So a lot of people just hack out this whole area, drill loads of holes in it and everything. The air filter basically sits on this ridge, so you've only got until that edge. So people have just hacked out big holes, but I wanted to keep it sort of OEM, make a mod but not go too dramatic, and focus on airflow characteristics rather than just a massive hole. There's a reason they flute these edges, etc. Same with the throttle bodies. Does make a difference. We'll soon find out. I've done it on a separate box just in case I want to return, but you can see the difference inside and out. It's quite a big difference. And you've got, you know, a 600cc bike revving to 14,000 RPM, creating 100 horsepower. There's a lot of air travelling through that little snorkel there. So hopefully this will help it breathe a little bit better. As I say, I've worked really hard on smoothing out the edges, making it as smooth a transition as possible, and let's hope that helps. Alright, so just while we were there, we cleaned out, might as well, I did have it on the list, I forgot to mention it, but I've cleaned and oiled the reusable air filter. It was pretty dirty actually, I had a year's work. I don't know how many miles that was, maybe a few thousand miles, probably about time. But while we're here, so now we'll just fit the modded box, and let's set up and have a little play. With the tank in place, balancing your throttle bodies, I tend to just use one of these. You don't need much leverage, and you're not going to get a full screwdriver. You might have a little stubby, but generally the stubbies tips are too wide, so it's about that wide. It's probably about 5mm wide, 4mm wide maybe, and that's enough movement easily just to adjust it. So let's get the box on. Stop jabbering and get on with it. Right, that was a lot of fiddling. I think we're about there. Idle speed's about right. 1250 to 1350. Could come down a little bit, just a hair. There we go. It's about as good as I'm going to get them. They're meant to be 218, they're just hovering over 200. Right, let's lock it all back up, get it ready for the trailer. Dyno time.